you, Prabhu.
Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tad evetaro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra, scripture, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures, like Manu Samhita and similar others, are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and principle and spiritual codes. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
So this is a very well-known verse from the Bhagavad Gita. We often find it, when some wealthy businessman will leave the body, then they may put a notice in the newspaper announcing the man has departed from the world, and they may quote this verse. Whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yajada chariti shrestha. Shrestha means respected persons. So, they think their leader, the head of their company or the head of their family, he was a shrestha. He was a very respectable man, and he set the highest standard for people. So it's important that we understand what is the proper behavior, what is the proper standard of behavior. And Prabhupada mentions about how the king or the head of state or even the father and the school teacher, they should all be considered leaders of the innocent people. They all have a responsibility to show the proper standard and the proper behavior. So if they don't behave properly, if the leaders don't behave properly, then we can't expect other people to behave properly. Because it's the nature of people that they want someone to follow, they want someone to look up to. And we see, for example, in the advertising industry today, they will take some famous movie star or some sportsman, and then they will show that he's using this wristwatch, or she washes her hair with this shampoo, like this, and we think, oh, they use that, I should also get that, It becomes a standard because these famous people are using it. So who are the leaders in the world today are often the most corrupt and degraded people. They don't show the proper standards at all. the so-called leaders, the movie stars and the sportsmen, you know, that they don't have any morality. They don't follow any rules and regulations. They don't have any real principles by which they're guided by. But somehow by their karma, they've become prominent in society. And the people, foolish people, ordinary people, they take them as a leader and they follow their standards. So it's not meant to be like that. The actual leaders of society, they're meant to show the highest standards of character and behavior and morality. So Prabhupada mentions about the teachers and the heads of state, the politicians, they all have a big responsibility. When Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, at one point it was arranged he was going to meet Indira Gandhi, and he did meet Indira Gandhi, but he didn't get really a chance to talk to her about what he wanted to talk about. But Prabhupada made some notes about what he wanted to impress upon Indira Gandhi. And one of the things was that all the members of parliament, that they should all be twice initiated Brahmins, and they should all be strictly following the regulated principles. Satyam, Socham, Daya, Tapa, cleanliness, mercy, austerity, and truthfulness. And Prabhupada wanted this kind of standard. He thought these people are the leaders of the country. They should have the highest standard of behavior and character. And they should be Brahmins. They should keep the Brahminical standards. So Prabhupada, unfortunately, never got an opportunity to really discuss this with Indira Gandhi, but that was Prabhupada's thinking on the matter. And it's expressed here in this purport, how Prabhupada wants these leaders that they should show the right standard. People want a hero, they want a leader, but they go to movie stars and so many other politicians and different mundane figures, people prominent in the material world. These people don't always show the right standard for society. So Lord Krishna is explaining here how people do follow, they do have a nature to follow, they want a leader, but unfortunately, because it's Kali Yuga, so the real leaders are lacking. Mm-hmm. Anybody has a question?
Yes, Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Maharaj. In the Bhagavad Gita, we get the description of a Mahatma. Was Gandhi actually a Mahatma, Maharaj?
No, not exactly. Not exactly. No, he wasn't really a Mahatma. Prabhupada said about Gandhi, he said among politicians, he was a holy man. But among holy men, he was a politician. So Gandhi was motivated about material purposes. You know, he was his whole mode of thinking and operating. It was all concerning material life. He didn't really take up the mission of Bhagavad Gita. Although he carried the Bhagavad Gita with him, he didn't really take up the mission of Bhagavad Gita, the chanting of the holy name, and understanding the philosophy, to surrender to Krishna. So he didn't portray that side of it. You know, he has some misconceptions. You know, he was talking about non-violence. And of course, his whole philosophy was India can get independence by non-violence. But the Bhagavad Gita is not about non-violence. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield. So that was one misinterpretation of Gandhi. that he was telling the people, he was preaching about non-violence. Some of the things were good, you know, he liked the village industry, that was good, and simple living. But he wanted to do things like the people, the Harijans, the people who were living in the Bangi colony, he wanted to make them all gods, you know, he wanted to upgrade them. But Prabhupada explains you can't upgrade people just by some artificial means. You have to change their character. You have to change their standards of behavior. So Mahatma, you don't make someone a Mahatma just by popular vote. Mahatma means a great soul. So the great souls are described in Bhagavad Gita that they're always chanting the glories of the Lord. Right? They're always chanting the glories of the Lord. They're always endeavoring to serve the Lord. They worship the Lord perpetually. That person, that's a Mahatma. So Gandhi was more of a politician than a Mahatma, than a saintly Mahatma. He was thinking about the political side and the conflicts with the British and get the British out of India. So get the British out of India, that was good. But it didn't help to elevate the people morally or spiritually. So Prabhupada had written to Gandhi just before he was assassinated, and he told Gandhi that now that India's got independence, now you should take up preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita. But he didn't do it. And so just a few weeks after Prabhupada wrote that letter, Gandhi was assassinated. All right, so we have to know the real standard of behavior for a leader, that he must be a good, proper character, must show the proper standards, must follow the moral principles of morality, must be a good example to others. And the good example is not just that he can make a lot of money. That's not important. Many people who make a lot of money, they're very sinful people. So sometimes we think because someone's a big businessman and he made a lot of money, he's a great man. But it's not like that. There's much more thing. The character is very, very important. We have to look at the character. We have to see, what does he do? How does he behave? Just like one may be a teacher. The teacher says, don't smoke, but the teacher smokes. So that kind of teaching is useless. You have to show the example to others. There has to be the teaching by example. It's not enough just to give instruction. Don't do this, don't do that. No, you have to show the example yourself. There's a story, the one lady brought her son to the doctor and she told the doctor, please tell my son he should not eat so many sweets. So the doctor said, okay, but please, you come back in 2 weeks' time. So the lady went away and came back 2 weeks later, and she brought her son. And then the doctor told her son, you should not eat sweets. So the lady was surprised. She said, why didn't you tell him that 2 weeks ago? So the doctor said, well, 2 weeks ago, I was eating a lot of sweets. So before I could tell your son not to eat sweets, I have to stop eating sweets myself. So that for the last 2 weeks, I haven't eaten sweets. So now I'm telling your son, better don't eat sweets. And so unless you're doing something yourself, you cannot expect others to do it. If you don't chant Hare Krishna, how can you expect other people to chant Hare Krishna? If you're not surrendering to Krishna, how can you expect other people to surrender to Krishna? It's like that. Understand?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Anybody else has a question?
Guru Maharaj, can our the Krishna conscious children, they can become leaders in future? Because it's very difficult to train the leaders. Maybe if the Krishna conscious children become the leaders, then will it be good, Guru Maharaj?
The Krishna conscious children.
Yeah, the born to the devotees, they are Krishna conscious and they can go in politics and become a leader of the country. Then we will have a good leader, right, Guru Maharaj?
Well, we hope so. That difficult, you know, politics, the way it is today, to be a politician, you have to have you have to have a lot of power, a lot of money to go into politics. It's money you have to have all, especially in the West, in USA, all the big politicians are all very wealthy people. So at one point, one devotee, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was a very good preacher, and he also went into politics. And for a little while, Prabhupada encouraged him. His name was Balavanta, and he was in Atlanta. He was the temple president of Atlanta, and his father was a lawyer, and he was also trained in law. So he got involved a little bit in politics, and he did run in the election, and he was on several television shows with different politicians. And he would impress upon people the importance of principles and being truthful and being moral and like that. And people would agree, you know, people had to agree because he was very good preacher and he presented the philosophy very nicely. So he ran in the election. He didn't get many votes. And Prabhupada also discouraged it because it was costing a lot of money. A lot of money was required to actually participate in that kind of thing. You have to put up a lot of money. There's many expenses involved. So Prabhupada said, this is not good because we're a religious society and we have tax exemption. And if you get involved in politics, then it's a different thing. And there's taxes involved. So we didn't want to damage our income tax exemption. But if you go into politics, then there's some danger of that. So Prabhupada stopped it. But still, we can preach. We may not be in the politics, but just by our preaching and by showing a nice example, we can impress upon people the importance of moral principles and proper behavior, show the right standards. Actually, the principles of Krishna consciousness are what people expect from religious people. This is the standards for people who are pious and religious. And they should show that kind of behavior. So if we don't do that, then it's not showing the right standard. We don't have a lot of people following us. We're a small number. We're very much a minority culture. You know, there's so many more Christians and Muslims and so many other different people. So we're a very small group. So we don't have a lot of support. So it's unlikely that we could become leaders on a major sense. Although there's this one lady in USA, I don't know, have you heard of her, Tulsi Gabbard? There's one lady,
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Tulsi Gabbard, you know, she's
Yeah,
a devotee. She's a devotee. And her mother and father they took up Krishna consciousness in Hawaii. And So she became active in politics, and now she's like a senator or something. And at one point, even she was maybe going to run for president of the country at one point. So sometimes Krishna arranges. So Tulsi Gabbard, she's very prominent in America. And she often, she went for the Rath Yatra in New York, and she chanted and sang Hare Krishna. She plays the guitar a little bit, and she played her guitar and sang Hare Krishna. And she has many videos online where she's speaking about the Bhagavad Gita. So you can see Krishna fulfilling your desire that devotee leaders are coming.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Ramya Mataji, do you want to read 3.22?
Okay, Vaishnavi.
Thank you, Mataji.
Name parishasti kartavam trishu lokesu kinchanana nanavaptam avaptavyam vartayevasha karmani. Translation. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Puppet. The supreme personality of Godhead is described in the Vedic literature as follows. Tam Ishwaranam Pranamam Maheshwaram, Tam Devatanam Pranamam Sha Devatam, Pratim Pratanam Paramam Parasat, Vidama Devam Bhuvanasyam Idyam, Na Tatsya Karyam Karnam Sha Vidyeti, Na Tatsamana Sam Sabhyadiksha Drikshyate, Parasya Shakti Vividarya Sruyate, Sava Bhavitaki Janabala Kriyasha. The Supreme Lord is the controller of all other controllers, and he is the greatest of all the diverse planetary leaders. Everyone is under his control. All entities are delegated with particular power only by the Supreme Lord. They are not supreme themselves. He is also worshipable by all demigods and is the supreme director of all directors. Therefore, he is transcendental to all kind of material leaders and controllers and is worshipable by all. There is no one greater than him, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. He does not possess a bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his strengths can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Since everything is in full opulence in the personality of Godhead and is existing in full truth, there is no duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to perform. One who must receive the result of work has some designated duty, but one who has nothing to achieve within the three planetary system certainly has no duty. And yet Lord Krishna is engaged on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as the leader of the Kshatriyas, but the Kshatriyas are duty bound to give protection to the distressed. Although he is above all the regulation of the revealed scriptures, he does not do anything that violates the relieved scriptures. Hare Krishna.
All right, so Lord Krishna had given examples about self-realized soul, one who is self-realized soul, that they have no duty to perform. They don't do anything. They don't need to do anything. But Lord Krishna states they do act for the sake of showing the example. And Lord Krishna gave the example about Maharaj Janaka. Maharaj Janaka was a great soul, and he's the king and ruler, but still he would engage in many different duties. He was a self-realized soul. He was the father of Mother Sita, the consort of Lord Ramachandra. So he was really a great personality. He was of the highest man of the highest consciousness and character, but he acted. He didn't need to do things, but he did them because he wants to show the example. And now Lord Krishna is giving another example, and he uses himself as the example, that he himself, who is the Lord of the entire creation, and he's a Param Ishwara, but still he's engaged in activities. You know, if someone has a factory, they don't go to work. You know, they're the owner. They let other people run the factory. Prabhupada was with Alfred Ford, from, you know, Prabhupada's disciple, Alfred Ford. His grandfather was Henry Ford. So they were driving in Detroit. They were coming from the airport, going to the temple, and they came past the Ford Motor Factory. And one of the devotees said to Alfred Ford, they said, "Oh, is that where you work?" But Prabhupada said, "He does not work. He is the proprietor." So everyone laughed. But it's true that when you own the big company, the people who own the big companies, they don't go to work. They don't go to the office every day. They don't have to work. They may go to a meeting sometimes, but they don't go to the office. They're not required. They're not going to be on the job every day. And so, but Lord Krishna, although he's the Lord of the whole three worlds, he's engaged in activities. He would, when he was living in Dwarka, he would go to the Siddharma Assembly House every day. Of course, he had all of his wives, but every day he would leave all of his wives to go to the Siddharma Assembly and to meet with all the people. And if there was any business, he would take care of it. If there was any disturbance, any demons were attacking, Lord Krishna would have to deal with them. So Lord Krishna was engaged in activities, and he was engaged in activities for the sake of showing the example. So this is a very important point, that people sometimes think that, oh, the self-realized soul, he doesn't do anything. But here in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that the self-realized soul will also act for the sake of showing the example. And as we just heard in the previous verse, people are very much influenced by the activities, by the actions of the leaders. So it's very important that the leaders show the right example for others to follow. So Lord Krishna, as the Supreme Lord, he's very careful to show the right example for everyone. Right? Any questions?
Guru Maharaj, can you say what all the 3 planetary systems?
Yes, there is heaven and earth and hell. Right? There's the upper planetary systems where the demigods live. We call the heavenly planets. And we're on the earthly planet, which is in the middle. And below the earthly planet, there's the hellish planets. So like that, 3 words. And sometimes if you look further, if you will read scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, it will describe how there are 14 different levels of planetary systems. There are different levels of demigods and different levels of planets going down. Our Earth planet is about number 7 in the middle of the 14. You see, so we're in the middle. So the Earth is not too heavenly and it's not too hellish. So it's a better place to become perfect or to get detached. If you go to the heavenly planets, it's so opulent and so much comfort and luxury there that it's bewildering. And if you go down to the lower planets, it's very terrible and hellish and unbearable. You're suffering so much. So this Earth planet is the best place to be, to get out, to want to get perfection. Not too bad, not too good. It's a better place. So even the demigods, they want to come down here to take birth here on this planet because they know it's easier to go back to Godhead from this planet than it is from the heavenly planets. If you go up to the heavenly planets, then you have to wait for the end of the life of Brahma before you could go back to Godhead. Lord Brahma lives a very long life. So at the end of the universe, when Lord Brahma dies, at that time only, he goes back to Godhead. So you have to wait for that time to go with Brahma.
So Guru Maharaj, even if you go to heavenly planets or hellish planet, you'll come back to earth, right?
Well,
The cycle keeps
depends.
repeating, right?
If you go to heaven, you go up to the higher planets, you go up because you did a lot of piety, right? You have a lot of punya, you did a lot of pious activities. So that elevates you up to heaven. So when your pious activities are exhausted, when you've used up all the results of your pious activities, then you'd come back here. Yes.
Okay.
But some people, they would go up to heaven.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Huh?
That explains very clear. Thank you, Maharaj.
But some people go up to heaven and they will wait for the end of Brahma's life. And at the time of end of Brahma's life, when Lord Brahma is going back to God, he may go back to Godhead at the end of his life. They may go with him. They may be able to go with him into the spiritual world at the end of the universe, when there's devastation, when there's destruction or annihilation of the universe. And sinful people who have a lot of bad karma, they've done a lot of sins, they go down. They go to the hellish planets. And Yamaraj will put them into some condition where they have to suffer. And they will suffer there for some time, and gradually they'll come up, and gradually maybe they'll take an animal birth and be in an animal body for some time, and it may be quite a long time before they get the human body again. So the human body is the chance where it's the particular point where we earn our karma, which will determine whether we're going up or going down, how we use this human form of life. Are we going to elevate? Are we going to do pious activities, good deeds? Then we go up. If we're doing bad deeds, we'll go down. But if you do devotional service, if you're engaged in devotional activities, then you can get out from the material world. You can go back to Godhead. There's no karma when you do devotional service, no good or bad karma. You simply go out, you get out from the material world. Yeah, you can understand?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Clearly.
Gurudev, I had a question.
Yes?
Gurudev, right now, currently we are said not to be performing devotional service until we reach that level of purity. But then yet the devotional service is called transcendental, above any of the karmas. How can I relate these two issues, Gurudev? They sound contradictory. Because firstly, we're told we can't perform devotional service until we reach that level of purity. It's not accepted. Our services are not accepted. Then we are told our services are already transcendental. They're not to be looked at in any of the modes. They're above. So both of these words seem contradictory.
Well, you have to examine and see if your devotional service is transcendental or not. Devotional service may also be in the modes and may also be under the modes of nature. Somebody may be in the modes when they're doing devotional service. They may be chanting Hare Krishna, or they may be serving their deity, but they may be in the modes. They may be lazy when they're doing their deity worship, or they may be doing it for their own benefit, for their own purification, to get rid of their own sins. They're not doing it just for Krishna's pleasure, but they're doing it for their own sake. They're thinking about themselves. So that's devotional service in the modes. Transcendental devotional service is done for the pleasure of Krishna.
Okay, Gurudev.
So
Because I was attending the class, Bhagavad Gita class by Shivat Kamachi. So we were told both these points, and then I was a bit confused on that. I was like, okay, that's really a contradiction. I mean, okay, that's what. So I got a bit confused on that.
okay.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Fernando Prabhu, do you want to read 3.23?
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yadi hi aham navetayam jatu karmani antadritaha mama vartamanu vartante manusya partha sarvasaha. Oops. Translation. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Purport. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usages meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned soul and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common man would follow in his footsteps, because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home, as required of a householder.
So again, we see the same point is made here, that the leaders of the society have to show the right example. And Lord Krishna says how important it is for him that he has to do everything properly. He said, if I ever failed, then certainly all men would follow my path. People are always looking for an opportunity to be lazy or to be neglectful. And if they see that Lord Krishna is lazy or neglectful, then certainly they'll say, look, Krishna is like that. I'm also like. And so Lord Krishna is very careful to show the right example, to show the proper example. We have to keep people on the proper standard, the proper activities. And this is one of the reasons why Buddhism failed. We see that in India, it was a Buddhist country at one point, and people were following Buddhism. And what happened was everybody was just sitting and doing nothing, because that's the Buddhist philosophy. Ultimately, nothing is real. So stop everything, sit down and just meditate. And so the whole country was becoming neglected. Farmers were not working, crops were not being planted. Everybody was just saying, no, I'm meditating. and so this is not what we want. So although Buddhism was there for some time in India, eventually it was driven out, of course, by Shankaracharya. And one of the reasons why it was driven out was because people saw that no good result is coming from it. It was people were just being lazy, doing nothing. So we want to encourage people to work, to be active. And Lord Krishna does. The whole Bhagavad Gita is encouraging people in action and activity. Don't sit and do nothing, but be active for the service of Krishna. And Krishna is inspiring Arjuna that Arjuna should take part in the battle, not just because it's his duty and not just because it's justice, but the reason why Krishna wants Arjuna to fight is because it's devotional service. He wants Arjuna to fight because Krishna wants him to do it. So the motive should be to please Lord Krishna. I'm doing this for the pleasure of Krishna. I don't worry about myself. It's not for my gain and my benefit. It's for Lord Krishna. I want to please him. We offer arti, we cook for the deities, we clean the temple. We do it for Krishna. We don't do it for our own self, just to purify our own heart, but we're thinking, I want to please Krishna. Krishna is happy when he sees the devotees working for him. No, and it's our nature actually to be active. Everyone is active. Nobody can be idle, not even for a moment. So be active for Krishna. Please Krishna. And Lord Krishna, he's very careful to show the example. He doesn't want people to become lazy or to do nonsense. He wants them to work. He wants them to organize everything nicely, provide for the needs of everyone, look after everyone, take care of everything. Be conscientious. It's important. And Krishna shows by his own example. All right? Yes? Any question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, in the Kurukshetra war, Krishna did use some trickery to protect the Pandavas. How about that, Maharaj?
Yes. Yes, Krishna had to do sometimes trickery to protect the Pandavas. Because Krishna wants the Pandavas to win. He wants the Pandavas to rule. He wants the devotees. He wanted he wanted the Yaduda, he wanted Maharaj Yudhisthira to be the ruler. He wanted to put them on the throne. He didn't want Duryodhana and his brothers. He wanted Maharaj Yudhisthira. Maharaj Yudhisthira is the symbol of Dharma. So Krishna did some trickery, because there was a lot of trickery used on the other side. So Krishna had to adjust things remember Krishna's promise to protect his devotees, right? So Krishna has to take care of his devotees. So sometimes he does a little bit trickery. And he saw that they were very unfair when they killed Abhimanyu. The people of the Yadu dynasty, the Dhritarashtra and his brothers, they surrounded Abhimanyu when they killed him. They didn't give Abhimanyu a fair chance. There were so many of them. About 8 great Maharathis were all around him, and they cut him down, killed him. So they didn't give any fairness when they dealt with Abhimanyu. So Krishna thought, why should there be any fairness now? They were not fair to Abhimanyu. Why should we be fair to them? And so Krishna was sometimes a little tricky. And they say Krishna broke his promise. Krishna promised not to fight, but at one point he picked up the chariot wheel and came rushing towards Bhishma. But Prabhupada said actually he didn't fight. He came with the wheel and he said, I'm going to kill you, but he didn't. He was just telling Bhishma that I could kill you, but he didn't actually do it. So Lord Krishna was, he's not so much worried about morality, but he's concerned about the heart. He knows the heart of his devotees. And he wants to act for the welfare of his devotees. So the Lord's desire was to put the Pandavas on the throne and let them rule, because they'd been unfairly treated for so long. So sometimes Lord Krishna had to use a little trickery just to protect the Pandavas. But that's the Lord. He has that right. He has that position. He can do these things.
Guru Maharaj, Dwarakad is here. Just another question pertaining to the trickery. Let's say that a devotee is really is a real devotee, but he's doing some business. He does some tricks in his business for the purpose of serving Lord Krishna. Will that lead to any sins?
Yes, it can do. It can do. We have to see. People often say, oh, I'm doing this for Lord Krishna. But then when the fruit comes, then they don't actually do it. They don't keep their promise. They don't actually use it for Lord Krishna. Does Lord Krishna really want us to do these things? You see, you have to also consider, is this what Lord Krishna wants? He wants us to use trickery to serve him. It's not really required. We can serve Krishna honestly. It's better that we serve Krishna honestly than by trickery. Krishna is more pleased by honesty. Krishna doesn't care about the results. He's not caring about how much you may give or how much money you may donate or whatever. Krishna wants to see good character. So moral principles, religious principles are important. You don't want to get a reputation as a cheater and being dishonest and then say, oh, I'm doing it for Krishna. It's not good. We want to keep our character. You know, great kings like Maharaj Dasarath, they vowed never to tell a lie. Maharaj Yudhisthira also never told a lie. So this character is very important. So similarly, you're going to do business, you know, you're going to do lying and trickery. It's not very good. It's not, and then you say, I'm doing it for Krishna. It's an excuse, you know. Yes, certainly there'll be some sins there. You have to be careful. But at the same time, Prabhupada recognizes that someone's a businessman. They have to tell sometimes lies, just like they will tell the customer, for you, I'm not making any profit. So of course, everyone knows he has to make some profit. Otherwise, how can he keep the business going? But the businessman will say like that, you know, I'm giving you the best price, for you, I'm not making any profit. So this is just talk, business talk. But of course, you do like that, you're going to get some. There is going to be some karma. You have to do these things, so you have to expect there will be some karma, karmic reaction, because you're going to enjoy the fruit of your trickery. There's some fruit coming there. You're going to enjoy it, so there will be some karmic reaction along with that. That will depend how much of the fruit you actually give to Krishna and how much you enjoy yourself. Okay, I think we should chant Hare Krishna now, Vaishnavi.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.